Congressman Mark Pocan joins us now to talk more about this Trump transition, if it were, as it were. Congressman, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I'm on my phone. Apparently, Apple did updates, and since the work computer and the personal, I'm here via phone.
We've all been there. I've actually gotten to the point now where I set an alarm for every Sunday evening or Monday morning for Google to log out and log back in, because I'm all the time getting kicked out, and it's like 2 minutes to air, and you're like, nope, we need to know it's you. Please put your password back in, and it never happens at an opportune time. Let's put
Yeah,
it that way.
the office probably could figure this out, but I'm figuring it out this morning, and
That's
unfortunately, I am not the most technologically astute. But I can't blame Elon Musk for this. But I think we can blame Elon Musk for pretty much everything else.
Oh my God, we can do a lot of that. And look, I've talked a bit about this new thing that President Trump said last night about the U.S. should basically take over Gaza, turn it into another Riviera, and relocate 2 million Palestinians. And I've given the precaution already, but I'm going to say it again, that this is one of those shiny object things when there are substantive things that can impact our day-to-day lives here. But I do want to get your take, and I'm going to give it in the most biased way possible so that people know exactly how I feel about this. Dumb idea, or dumbest idea ever, to try to put U.S. troops to hold ground in the Middle East, because I remember Lebanon in 1986.
No, I'm going to put this hopefully in the category of we're going to invade Greenland, we're going to acquire Canada to be the 51st state, and some of the other ideas. The last time Trump was president, about 90% of what he said never became reality. This time, I think it's going to be about 75%, but we still have to figure out the 25%. Right now, I know what it's going to be. I think today they're going to have a directive that's going to start tearing apart the Department of Education. We've watched what he did to the USAID. We're watching what they're doing agency by agency, and those are real things, because he has to cut and find $4 trillion over the next 10 years to give the tax break to Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. So Elon Musk is doing his best to find his tax break, and he has no idea what he's doing because he doesn't understand the federal government. But those are the things that I'm focused on, because I think they're the most real, because I know at the end of the day, the people who can join Mar-a-Lago are the ones that Donald Trump listens to, and they're the ones who want the big share of the tax break. And some of these other things, as awful and stupid and embarrassing as they are to hear from the president, I got to focus on the real.
Exactly. And, the real is that USAID does life-saving work every day all around the world, is also, working on behalf of democracies, something Elon Musk has proven that he is hostile toward. But it is also low-hanging fruit, like you said, to help pay for another, millionaire's tax cut that's going to be coming through. But what, in your estimation, whether it's USAID or the U.S. Department of Education, is it basically all the possible pushback is going to come in court fights? Because there's already no shortage of lawsuits that's been filed, and that's really is that the best recourse at this point?
Honestly, the two things we don't have majorities in the House or the Senate. The Senate has some rules where they can slow things down. For us, it's litigation and information, right? We have to put this information out so that other people can recirculate it on their social media to let them know that the grift that is going on. I mean, this is becoming an authoritarian kleptocracy, right? In what they're doing. It's a single person making all the decisions, even if they don't have the power to, even if the Constitution doesn't allow them. And they're doing it to grift, to steal this money so they can give it to a tax break for the wealthiest. That is what we really have to keep the most focused on. There's going to be other awful things he does to people who come to the border and other areas that we're also going to work on. But the big grift, the biggest grift in the world's history will be if he can get a tax bill done through a reconciliation bill in April, which is his goal, by stealing money from the middle class and those aspiring to be in the middle class in programs like education and healthcare and housing and veterans benefits that he's going to otherwise steal and reallocate to the wealthy.
And the only way that's going to not happen is if you get, what is it? I think 4 Republican senators, and I forget how many in the House. And yet, on some of these votes for cabinet members who, a couple of them appear in no way, shape, or form to be qualified. You didn't get not enough Republican votes were out there to provide some measure of hope that Republicans in the House or Senate will stand up to something, no matter how egregious that is. Is that too negative? Do you still feel like there can be a line at which enough Republicans in Congress will stand up and say, no, Mr. President, not this far?
Yeah, the 2025 chapter of Profiles in Courage for Republicans is going to be very thin. There's no question. But if enough people speak out, and that's our job as individuals, is we have to say, no, I don't want you to dismantling education so that, my kid or my neighbor's kid or my family member's kid who needs special ed doesn't have that funding available anymore. No, my neighbor's a veteran and I don't want you touching his benefits. And by the way, keep your hands off my Social Security, my Medicare, my Medicaid. And when you have us doing that, they can't keep doing it. At some point, clearly Donald Trump is overreaching, but at what point is that breaking point? We have to move that timeline up to before April, because if we don't, they will do the biggest grift in the world's history, and it will be something very, very, very hard to untangle.
When we've talked about pushback, I'm leading up to what the Democratic Party can do, but let me stick with the litigation for a moment, because I saw a great Facebook post from Professor Jay Michelson from Harvard and Emory Universities, who wanted to make the record clear that it's not that people aren't doing anything. There have been lawsuits filed on behalf of the database invasion by Elon Musk, the U.S. aid closure, the firing of the inspectors general, basically the existence of this so-called Department of Government Efficiency, which if it's an actual thing, it has to meet certain rules about public access. There's the 18 state attorneys general who have filed suit about immigrants' rights. The dismissal of civil service employees has been challenged in court. And there's also been a lawsuit to stop Trump's ban on trans people in the military. So there is pushback in court. Like you said, there are all these fronts that are happening. From a Democratic side, I've got a question here from Facebook. I would like to know more from Mark Pocan if the plan is to be more social media savvy now that Ken Martin has won the chairmanship seat. Right now, the funding calls coming from the DNC are pretty tone deaf. And I think not so much the calls, but my goodness, the text messages, the endless text messages. Talk to us about Ken Martin, the DNC leadership that is going to come from it, and what might we see differently from the Democratic Party overall?
Look, if we're banking on the DNC to save us, we've lost, right? I've never had a direct connection to the DNC because of the work they do. While it is in some ways important, it's not necessarily doing the work we need to have done right now. But members of Congress are certainly doing that. This week, a little later this week, we are starting lifting off our podcast, so we can start getting longer form information out there, right? Every week now, we're doing a weekly update about what happened in Congress. We just need to have us get some of this information out, people to amplify that message so that we are calling Republican offices and making sure that this flooding the zone they're doing with bad ideas, that we're flooding the zone with our opinions on it so they understand that it's a problem. But it's on us, honestly. It's on me as an elected official. It's on us as individuals to amplify some of this. It is that public information pushback and the litigation. So these groups that are doing the lawsuits, support them. I put out last night on social media a link of a tracker of all the lawsuits that are out there. We all should follow that because we need to know what's happening. But litigation and communication are our strongest tools right now. And that's what I think we should all work on.
And that was the point in this post last night of, give money to Public Citizen or to the ACLU or similar groups that maybe the DNC is not the place right now for that. You, by the way, your video updates, week in review type of content, it's in such plain English. And I would just recommend to everybody to follow Congressman Pocan on social media because your video explainers, you've been in Washington for a number of years, the legislature before that. You'd never know. You have not lost your ability to actually speak like a normal person.
Yeah, well, I was a journalism major, and we're told to communicate at eighth grade level and explain it simply. And if I talk to you about intersectionality and a bunch of acronyms and a bunch of things that, quite honestly, get talked about here in Washington, we've lost again, right? So I'm not counting on the DNC. I'm not counting on Washington speak. It's what we know back home, right? If you can't pay your mortgage or your rent, and you can't get groceries, and you don't have health insurance for your family, and you can't take a family vacation, we're not communicating with people, right? That is what matters. And we missed one last week, a weekly update, because I was back home, and honestly, we were everywhere. We did town hall with 300 to 400 people. We've done pressers. We're doing everything we can to get this information out there, but people just need to amplify it and learn. Like, one of the things I think it's real important, the Lake and Riley Act, right? That's a lot on social media about we're allowing criminal immigrants to stay in the country. Bull. I mean, what right now you can deport a criminal who's an immigrant, right? Period. End of story. But this law said if you're even accused of a crime, which gets rid of due process, which is one of the foundations of the United States legal system. So unless you want to become an authoritarian country, you have to at least follow the laws we have. And I think the more we get that kind of information out there, it helps push back against the MAGA idiots. I put out a question this morning. What should we do about Elon Musk? And one of my answers was, I do whatever MAGA tells me. This morning, that actually was winning because people do that. Scary.
Congressman Pocan, thank you so much for staying on top of all this and for the visit. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thank you. Next time I'll figure out technology ahead of time.
Not a worry.